Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing Geodude Jared's incredibly successful deck of the last week or so. Not only did they win a prelim, they also bagged themselves a 5-0 league and a challenge win. So this deck is on a real heater right now in the hands of Geodude Jared, who's been obviously putting a lot of work into the Goblins archetype. And this is a slightly different one to the ones I've been playing lately. This is the Aether Vial build. It does have a couple of Ancient Tombs for powering out, but it's kind of more like that Rishadan Port feel that you used to get out of the old, more traditional Goblin decks. So, as you can imagine, we are a tribal deck trying to do Goblin stuff. The top end of that being Muxus, which we can go and fetch with Matron, or we can Ringleader to try and dig for it. And this just puts a bunch of Goblins in play. But that's not actually our A plan a lot of the time. Our A plan is going to be just making guys that are good, really. So we're going to be doing Lackey, which can help us jump the curve. We've got things like Broadside Bombardiers here, Sling-Gang Lieutenant, which can drain our opponent out for a bunch, makes a load of guys. Battle Cry Goblin is great with extra guys. Mogg War Marshal, making more guys. Munitions Expert, really good with guys. You're kind of seeing the theme here. And the Bombardiers can then throw things like Matron and turn this into a Lava Axe after it's already done the thing. So we have like just a really solid aggro plan here. We're a Cavern deck, we've got Aether Vials, so we can play around count spells quite well. We've got Mana Denial in 4 Wastelands and 2 Ports, so we can kind of restrict our opponent as well. Just sort of all the tools you'd really expect from a Goblins deck, really. We've got a few spicy ones like Stingscourger and Twinshot Sniper to tutor up and do stuff with. And we've got 3 Namesticker Goblins to have sort of big explosive turns as well. Couple of Prospectors as well can fuel some of our mana and sort of pay the extra costs if our name stickers are low rolling us and we need a bit more mana. So yeah, that's the deck. There's quite a bit of play to it, and hopefully we're going to do a reasonable job accounting for ourselves on it. Sideboard wise, as you can imagine, our combo matchup is pretty poor. Because we're not the Turbo Muxus build, we're not trying to kill our opponent on turn 2, so we can't really race combo decks that effectively. To combat that, we've got a couple of Mind Break traps, a little bit of Graveyard Hate, more Graveyard Hate, some basic land hate as you'd expect. Sorry, non-basic land hate as you'd expect. Artifact hate and Trashmaster. Some chalices which can stop all these decks dropping all these zeros that then sort of snowball out of control. Pyrokinesis for creature decks. Fury also for creature decks. And a couple of Pyroblasts for the blue decks. So we've got a bunch of tools. Quite a few of them are sort of dedicated combo piece, like combo hate a lot of the time. That's kind of where you need to go when you're playing decks like this. But if we're against relatively fair things, we can grind through a lot of decks. So I've been very impressed with Goblins lately, and obviously Geodude Jared has been doing phenomenal with this deck, so I'm excited to play this deck and see if we can put some wins on the board. Also, it's quite nice to take a little break from Dark Depths every now and then. It's in the middle of December. I've been enjoying these midweek meta decks. Alright, remember to like and subscribe, and let's jam some Goblins. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? We are on the play round 1. We've got a classic sort of Vial and Mana Disruption start. I would like to have more things to do with our Vial, but I think this is acceptable. I will keep this. Right, we can go and get ourselves a basic Mountain here. And play this Aether Vial. Next turn we can play a Port, and then we can play a Wasteland, and just slowly constrict our opponent while this builds up counters. Then we can go Matron into Ringleader. So it's a little bit slow for sure, but we have tools to slow down the game. Mox Diamond usually suggests we're looking at a lands-based strategy. Obviously, that's what the card kind of does. But that could be Green White Depths, or it could be classic lands, or any of the flavors in between. Life from the Loam, sure. So this Loam makes a lot of our Mana Denial plan a bit suspect. So we're not going to have a great time here. Yes, we'll use the Aether Vial ability. Broadside Bombardiers, that's certainly something I'm interested in. We can't shut them off of their mocks, but we can Rishadan Port and stop them getting some mana going. Is this what I really want to be doing? No. But it's the shape we're in right now. Alright, so they've milled over a Blast Zone, Exploration, and Mox Diamond. Blast Zone, pretty good against us here. I think we're going to see the Saga into the Blast Zone in terms of what they're wanting to dredge. Yep, so they're going to Life of the Loam back this Blast Zone. They can use that as early as next turn to blow up our Aether Vial. So this Aether Vial might not get to do anything, which is awkward. Skirk Prospector. Does that change anything we're doing now? I don't believe so. I think we are on... If we Wasteland them, they can't do the thing next turn. So we can Wasteland them off of stage. And then we can Rishadan Port this Saga so they can't make constructs. Our opponent is much better at this mana than our game, but it's kind of the plan that we've got right now, so we may as well lean into it. So next turn we can play Matron and Bombardiers and get jamming. There is the blast zone. I'm hoping this is going to be too slow and we can start mounting the pressure. Sphere of Resistance. Alright. That's interesting. We started having 2 drops there. So yes, we'll put a counter on. So what is our plan, given how things are working right now? We could Aether Vial in our Matron or our Broadside Bombardiers. Right, so step 1, we're going to do this Bloodstained Mire. I think we just get another mountain here. We can go get a swamp, a Badlands when the time is appropriate. So because of the Sphere of Resistance, we can play Skirk Prospector for 2 mana. Or we can play Broadside Bombardiers off of the Aether Vial. We could go and get a 2-drop. So we could go put in the Matron and then put in a 2-drop. I think I'm into that. It's not really the blistering pace I want to play this game at necessarily, but we got some tools. So what do we want to do here? If we go get a 2-drop, we can get something like the Battle Cry Goblin, which can do a lot of work moving forward. We could also get something like Namesticker Goblin to try and power out a Muxus next turn and hope that that gets us there. That's kind of an interesting one. I think we get Namesticker Goblin here. And then we cast this Skirk Prospector. We're going to lose our ability to Aether Vial because they're going to get a Pity Needle for it. But we can cast this Namesticker Goblin. And then we can sacrifice a bunch of stuff to make more mana. And hopefully put Muxus into play and overwhelm our opponent unless they get something really spooky here, like a Tabernacle. I guess they can Expedition map here. But if they're doing that, they're not shutting down our Aether Vial. So I have to imagine they're going for the Pity Needle here. Because we haven't presented a particularly scary clock right now. But the Namesticker Goblin does represent some spooky stuff coming along the way. Okay, Pity Needle. Oh, naming Rishadan Port. That's very interesting. They haven't played land yet. They used that 1 mana floating from the Saga to play a Mox Diamond. They're going to be jammed up by their own sphere here. Naming the Rishadan Port is very interesting. That suggests to me that our opponent doesn't have a clean answer for what we've got going on right now. They've got a Wasteland and they didn't want a Wasteland. Now they're going to blow up their own Needle as well here. Interesting. Very interesting turn there. Alright, let's get a mountain. So this Namesticker Goblin costs 4 mana. Do we want to do that or do we just want to Broadside Bombardiers straight up here? Because if we cast this, there's no way we can play Muxus. I think we just go do this, jam. Do we Lava Axe our opponent with this Goblin Matron is the question. I think so. The next turn we can try the Namesticker Goblin. And we might draw something that we can cast off of it if we low roll. If we high roll, we can cast Muxus. Unless they Wasteland our Rishadan Port, but then they're not casting any spells. I guess they could Wasteland, play a land, cast Life from the Loam. I think we kind of pressured them into having to pop that blast zone because of what the Namesticker Goblin and the Prospector represented. Alright. So they're not going to have any more spells because of the sphere. They've got themselves a Saga. Alright, okay, so they've got a Mox Diamond as well. Sure. Alright, what are we going to find here? Another Namesticker Goblin. Alright, I am very much down to clown. Let's see if we can... Okay, it has to be a Badlands here. Sure. Let's put the Namesticker Goblin out. How much mana are you going to make us? 6. Right. This is going to be mana neutral or an increase of mana. Okay, so now we get to cast this. Where are you going to find us? A Munitions Expert, not the most helpful. Oh, it's a May, so you can target whatever and then just choose not to. Alright, let's have a look. Okay, so we can play out this Prospector. We're just trying to generate 2 mana here, right? So we can deal 2... So we can deal 8, 9, 10, which isn't quite enough. So if we play this guy out, and then we start sacrificing some goblins. So we sacrifice this, and we sacrifice this, and we activate this, and then we go swinging, and And this should be more than enough damage. Alright, we found a way through. We ended up having to kind of rely on the combo-y aspect of Muxus doing its thing. But the way we were playing before forced our opponent into this weird sort of line where they're trying to blast zone us and constrain us. Sideboarding time. The lands deck, you say. I would like a Magus of the Moon. I think Trashmaster is pretty good here. A lot of their scary stuff is artifacts. And then some amount of this stuff is probably where we want to be. What is bad here? Twinshot Sniper does not seem like a particularly playable card in this matchup. And I don't really like Munitions Expert either. So we're still looking for 3 more cuts if we want to have all of these things in. Do we want to have all of these things in? Maybe we don't need a Surgical. All these things are just kind of better. Mogg War Marshal was a little bit unexciting. Maybe we can trim a War Marshal, although it's pretty good with some of our other elements here. Maybe the Matron's too slow. Alright, let's have 2... Oh no, sorry, we're a 61 card deck, aren't we? So we have the 3 Leylines in, but not the Surgical. Or do you want a 2 and a 1? Let's have a 2 and a 1. They obviously do different things. We didn't really see much in the way of colour banner from our opponents. We don't know what particular build they're on. Huh. This is an interesting one, isn't it? Magus is good though. And we do turn our lands into mountains, so we can name human with our Cavern of Souls. But a mountain would be a really good draw. Not a mountain. I'm very reluctant to play this Ancient Tomb. It does feel like it's just going to get wastelanded. We could just play the Skirk Prospector off this, but then we're going to need to find... I guess we can sack the Skirk Prospector for red if we really want to. Let's just start getting on board. This means if they wasteland us, we can still play Magus of the Moon next turn. So as a Saga would be... Okay. Wouldn't mind them drawing as a Saga and playing it that turn. Because we can try and get rid of it with the Magus and then beat down with all our other elements. An Arid Mesa. Interesting. So now we're in a situation where if we do want to play the Prospect, we have to really go for it. If we want to play the Magus. I'm not sure that's the correct play here. I think the best play here is actually Matron. Because we want to bait them into using the Expedition map for something like a Tabernacle. Yes, I would like Sticker Goblin, please. I think that's the best here. We can just unload a whole bunch of stuff next turn. They can't play an Endurance, so I think we can get this 1 damage in. Not that they necessarily even have an Endurance, but we definitely don't have to worry about it. 1 of your finest damages, please. Now it's over to our opponents. Yep, they're sacking this. Because if we play the Magus there, they go and get basic, and then they're kind of part way towards undoing our Magus plans. Okay, they've gone to get a Wasteland. We can beat Wasteland. If they go like Exploration, Tabernacle, Wasteland, that's kind of annoying. They can strip out our red source and then force us to pay to keep the other ones, and then we don't actually have... Well, we do have enough for the Magus then. It's awkward. We have to sack both of our existing guys. Obviously, they're not really doing very much to existing guys, but they do help sort of fuel the things we want to be getting up to. There's the Tabernacle that I mentioned. You got Wasteland as well. 3 mana. Sylvan Library with 1 mana floating. Is that for a crop rotation? It is. Right, this is going to get the Wasteland, I believe. There it is. And we lose our Ancient Tomb. Alright, that is a pickle for sure. So we don't pay for the Matron, but we do pay for the Prospector. An Aether Vial. Alright, maybe we're going to get punished for that line where we didn't go and get our Magus into play when we could have done. Let's bash away. Not a lot of damages there. But if we find a land next turn, we can put the Magus in. Obviously our Skirk Prospector, not long for this world. Maybe we got too clever with our playing around their things there. So they kept 1 card with the Sylvan Library. Alright, another Wasteland. Not liking that one too much. Pithing Needle, that's pretty good too. So we pay for our Skirk Prospector, and then we try and draw... so we're going to try and draw an Ancient Tomb, a Wasteland. That's interesting. We don't know if they have access to... We don't know if they have access to a Life from Loam just yet, but they've got a Sylvan Library, so it's not out of the realms of possibility. Right, they're going to go deep in with the library again. Alright, they put 2 cards back. So we can Wasteland the Tabernacle at the end of turn, and if we can draw any mana source, we can then put the Magus into play and then start shutting down what our opponent's doing. However, they've got to tutor along, well, not tutor, but refine their draws, sorry, with the Sylvan Library a fair bit. So there is a possibility. That doesn't really get us where we need to go. Let's get rid of Tabernacle here. Right, we lose our Prospector. Okay. Ancient Tomb. Yeah, we're definitely getting punished for the choice of trying to not just ramp the Magus out. There's a Thespian stage. Let's put another counter on Aether Vial. And Mogg War Marshal does nothing. If our opponent plays Dark Depths next turn, we just lose, I believe. Or a crop rotation for the Dark Depths is also pretty good. There's the Dark Depths. Okay. I don't believe we win this game. Let's just... Okay, yeah, maybe ramp that guy out is more effective there. Okay, so what do we want to do differently now? How do I feel about this Leyline? I'd rather have a Matron than one of them, I think, on the draw. On the play, sorry. But I don't really like many of the other cards we have access to. We could put Chalice on 1 to stop our opponent playing Swords to Plowshares. But they do eventually get through that with like Boseiju. So I guess we just have one Leyline and call it a day there. I think that is better than something like this Twinshot Sniper or whatever. Traditionally, lands is pretty good against like fair sort of creature decks. So we're definitely feeling the pinch of being the Vial version of Goblins rather than the Turbo Muxus build. Alright. I think we keep. Let me just go for the most powerful thing we can do, which is turn 1 Lackey, turn 2 Muxus. Let's see if you like them apples. We can always play this Rishadan Port and an Aether Vial next turn. But if this Lackey connects, then it does get to be lights out for us. Now, we've seen our opponents on the white bill with Swords to Plowshares, which means that that's the sort of card that they would keep a hand based on in this sort of matchup. Like, removal is going to be good. Mox Diamonds. This gives the ability to plow and wasteland us. That's the worst case scenario. We got rid of a basic, which could be useful for us down the line. Okay, not a wasteland. So we've avoided the worst case scenario. But they do have the plow. But this will eventually get them a Pithing Needle. So that's a problem we're going to have to deal with at some point. A Goblin Matron. These vials don't do anything here, is the problem. So I think we're better off just slowing this game down a touch by stopping their saga from making constructs. Like, they're going to get a Pithing Needle and they're going to name Aether Vial if we have an Aether Vial in play. And that's just not a thing we get to beat, given our hand. We don't get to stop this now because they can just make a construct in response. Maybe we could play the Aether Vials then, but our opponent would just get the Pithing Needle. They might still get the Pithing Needle and name Aether Vial, but they might just name Rishadan Port. So maybe our vials can tick up, but I'm not expecting them to do anything here. I think we're just cooked. If we lead out with the Aether Vial instead of the Lackey, then we do get to activate our Aether Vial once on a relevant numberer. So we get to... Actually, no, we don't even get to do an X's 3, right? Then they go 1, then it goes up to 1, the next 2 counters, and it goes up to 3. Yeah, no, we wouldn't even get to do anything with it, so... Alright. Just tap the land while we're here. A Mogg War Marshal. Is that a useful card for us to play right now? This Shadow Spear is going to take this game over before these Aether Vials do anything. I don't know how we're supposed to win this game, which feels like a real issue. Kind of stalled on lands. Maybe we just play this guy out because it's some bodies. If we draw a Skirk Prospector, that can potentially give us some more mana for next turn. We can get like something like Matron on the stack. And then go fishing for a Sticker Goblin. We can prevent 1 damage by blocking with a War Marshal. Because we're not paying for the upkeep on this. Because if we draw a land, we want to deploy one of these 3-drops. Alright, we're getting the full block off here. They're not even putting the Shadow Spear on it. That's good news for us. So they can just get Tabernacle here. Which is, of course, a problem for us. They could just get a Wasteland. Yeah, there's a Wasteland. We lose our red source here. We're already behind on mana. Yeah. It's not free to run black in this deck. Leyline on the Void. A terrible draw. Is there any point attacking? Our opponent can just equip and start beating. Well, I guess we're probably not blocking. I've just got trample. I think we probably have entered the stage where they just start equipping this and beating down for 4. Oh, maybe not. It's the stage where they make a 20-20. Yikes. How do we beat that? I think the answer is we don't. We're just done here. Yeah, our deck did not feel amazing this round. The first game was great. We managed to sort of thread the needle, but that was a game we had a lot of mountains and a lot of access to mountains. The second game, maybe I should have just jammed that Magus of the Moon as early as I could. We did have a window where we could have played it, and our opponent could have fetched any land they wanted in response. So they could have gotten themselves a basic to play through it, potentially, but it would have shut down a lot of their stuff. So maybe we were supposed to do that instead of trying to get greedy and make them waste their expedition map. But we did kind of struggle with drawing lands 2 games in a row here, which is a little bit awkward. All right, let's go to round 2. This hand can cook. We will keep this on. Our opponent's mulligan to 5 cards, which could mean that they're going to do something a bit more broken, because you tend to mulligan low if you're looking for specific combinations of cards rather than just a good hand. Let's play this on Goblin. Let's get our Prospector up and running. And then next turn we can play the Matron, or if we really want to, we can play the Ringleader at the cost of our Prospector. Patchwork. Okay, so we're looking at a Thoughtcasty style deck. Patch is Stompy, or 6 cast, 8 cast, whatever you want to call it these days. Right, so they're making their patches pretty large. But this is something that our deck is very good at blocking, because we have a lot of disposable bodies. It's Kappa Cannoneer that I'm worried about. Right, so they're just going to be redrawing a bunch, I think, here. So they've seen our Goblin Matron. What we'd like to see now, a Ringleader. And they're going to see the top card of our library as well. We don't have to worry about them disrupting our lands. They're not that sort of deck. Goblin Matron. Is that where I want to be here? I think so. I think we want the sticker Goblin here. 1, 2, 3. Actually, we can just get Muxus, right? Just make Muxus uncountable next turn, right? 4, 5, 6. So if they don't kill any of our guys, we have an uncountable Muxus next turn. And if they do kill one of our guys, then we can go Matron for a sticker Goblin. Alright, making patches bigger. Yep, you can carve off pretty large chunks of our life till. It's not hopefully going to matter. Chalice of the Void, X equals 2. That's to stop things like Battle Cry Goblin. We will happily take your 6 and put a Muxus on the stack. Let's crack this. In this matchup, they're not going to mess with our lands. We can go and get a Badlands here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sacrifice Matron. Sacrifice this to itself. Let's put Muxus uncountably on the stack. How much power can I get this turn? Name sticker Goblin and all these things. Alright, we will activate this. Activate this. Activate this. Yeah, so this is going to be 7 plus 5, so that's 12, plus another 10, which is 22, plus another 5, sorry, plus another 4, which is 26, plus 2 guys, 28 damage, plus the Muxus pump for another bunch. So yeah, Muxus is good. That's why I like the Turbo Muxus decks. I do feel pretty gross. Trashmaster is useful here. I don't mind Magus as a way of shutting down a lot of their mana base, because they are a deck that relies somewhat on Urza's Saga, so being able to shut it down feels pretty good. Chalice on 0, very strong in this matchup. Twinshot Sniper can kill the Emery, but that's about it. Munitions Expert can usually kill the Emery as well. So these tools are just better. Are we looking to kind of ignore our opponent's Emery to some extent? Maybe we are. I keep forgetting that we're a 61 card deck. Do you want this Magus back just to shut off some of their scarier lines? Or do you want something like a single Fury? Well, I'm not convinced our mana base is the best for that. Stingscourger bouncing tokens is nice. Yeah, I think we'll try this one of Magus to shut down. It does take out our own Caracas, but if we can use it as like a wasteland, against and as Saga, that's probably fine. We do also have our own Wastelands. Alright, we have a turn 1 Vial and a turn 1 Chalice on 0. It seems like a pretty reasonable place to be. Which of these is the bait spell is a different question. Retrofit's Foundry. No zeros there from our opponents. Alright. Then we go and get ourselves Badlands. Which of these is the bait spell? Maybe it's the Vial. Alright, we're just in. Alright. We've shut off a bunch of cards in our opponent's deck, like 20 odd cards. Now they can still do stuff because some of the things count on casting artifacts. But this is pretty good. We start taking up the Vial. We can Wasteland a Saga. We're not going to Wasteland a Tomb. We're only going to Wasteland Sagas here. Sai. That guy's pretty good. So these are cast triggers. So this is exactly what I was saying about they can still cast them for some value. Alright, let's put a counter on this. Let's draw for turn. Ancient Tomb. Does that change anything? I think it probably does. We can go Matron here. We'll go and get... Is it Sticker Goblin or is it Trashmaster? It's probably just Sticker Goblin for now. And then we can put in the Mogg War Marshal. Sorry, the Skirk Prospector and then the Mogg War Marshal so we have loads of mana to play with. Right, so turning Thopters into 4/4. So they've got a reasonable beatdown plan going. But usually what we can do with the Muxus will go over the top, provided they don't have a force of will they found for it. Alright, they're making a servo here. Why are they making servo pre-combat? For Emery reasons. Okay, sure, that makes sense. There is a Lotus Petal. Another Emery. They're just trying to fuel Emery to do some good stuff for them in the future. Well, they can make constructs every turn. Take 5 here. But hopefully our opponent's in for a world of pain. They can't have Force of Will with this mana. No Hydro Blast. So we should just be having a great time. Guess we start with how most turns start. Let's have a Sticker Goblin. How much mana is that? 5 mana. Do we want to play out our Ancient Tomb right now? It is more mana. I think we'll play out the Ancient Tomb here. We're planning on winning the game basically this turn. What have you found us? So we have... Alright, we will go say yes to Goblin Matron's ability. We'll go and find Battle Cry Goblin. We'll activate our Aether Vial. We'll put in our Battle Cry Goblin. We will sacrifice one of these tokens to activate Battle Cry Goblin. We'll swing for a bunch and then we can also Broadside Bombardiers for 8. That's half our opponent's life total. And then we can also sacrifice all of our guys to Sling-Gang Lieutenant. Yeah, that's kind of the Muxus-y side, which does, to me, feel much better than these sort of nickel and diamond, Wasteland, Aether Vial stuff. But I guess the games where we don't have Muxus in this are a lot better than the Toa Muxus build when it doesn't have Muxus. So there is that to think on. But we are 1-1. Let's go to round 3. So we're on the draw. We've got Aether Vial into some other stuff. Like, this is a fine hand. It does seem a bit too fair. Leyline in the Void. So probably against a mono-black Helm style deck, which is not a deck we get to interact with, really. Chalice of the Void for 1. That shuts down our turn 1 play. We do have Wastelands here, which will be actually useful. I think we're going to fetch ourselves a basic around Opposition Agent with the intention of Rishadan porting our opponent to try and keep them off of Helm combo. Alright, we'll try and keep them off of Saga activations, I suppose. Okay. Tap this down. We don't want them getting Saga tokens. What are we doing now? So we have Opposition Agent up, so I'm not playing one of our Bloodstained Mires here, unless we're just tapping it for black. We could play Broadside Bombardiers. What does that actually accomplish for us? We bash for 2, and then they get to do some Urza Saga shenanigans. I think that's acceptable. I think that's better than just sitting back and waiting. Alright, let's bash for 2. They do have an Ancient Tomb eating away at their life total. But they could potentially just kill us a turn with Helm and there's nothing we can do. So I think the idea is to try and make the game have fewer turns. They have less draw steps to find the Helm. But they can quite easily have 5 mana this turn. So they can play and activate Helm. Chrome Mox. Is that their 5th mana? Could well be. A Curse of Misfortunes. Okay, so we're on the Curses deck. Cruel Reality. At the beginning of enchantment, that sector is a creature or planeswalkers. If that player can't, they lose a bunch of life. I see. We have to sacrifice our guy. That's sad. Now play around opposition agent. Let's go and get a Badlands here. Wish I could just take the 5 life a couple of times, but these are guys. We can at least do something with them. We can just Muxus over the top of this. Khan the Great Creator. So next turn they can kill us. So we do need to draw Muxus now. Understood. There's the Helm of Obedience. Right, so we sacrifice a Goblin here. And try and draw a Muxus. Okay, we did not get a Muxus. We can kill the Khan. If they have to pay 4 for the Helm, so they'll be effectively on 8. So if we can deal our opponent 8 damage this turn. How do we deal our opponent 8 damage? So we can deal them 2 here. 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not enough, is it? So what if we Rishadan Port down? If we Rishadan Port down their Ancient Tomb, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana. So we'd need to find a mana source to kill us. Interesting. We will go and get ourselves another Badlands. We can't play this. We can't do anything with this Prospector because of the Chalice. We can kill the Khan here and then attack for a little bit. But we can't get them low enough to make the Ancient Tomb matter. Not this turn anyway. If we could tap down the Ancient Tomb and hope they don't have 5 mana this turn. Alright, I think that is our plan here. So we got attacks. Attack them. Cast this. Black. Red. We'll kill the Khan. Then we'll tap down their Ancient Tomb. And hope this buys us the 1 turn we need to put lethal damage on the board. There's a Helm. They've got a land? They do have a land. Alright. We are dead. Alright. A little bit awkward there, but not the end of the world. Okay, so Trashmaster good. Nothing else really striking me as amazing here. Twinshot Sniper seems... I guess this kills Doughty Voidwalker actually, so that's kind of important. These kill Doughty Voidwalkers as well. Our Wasteland stuff is good. Sling-Gang Lieutenant can give us that tiny bit of reach we need. Stingscourger, less exciting to me in this one. Is this all we're doing? Like Fury, Pyrokinesis. Like Fury can hit a Planeswalker, which can be relevant, but hopefully we're going to have guys. If we don't have guys and they're just carning away, I'm probably not winning anyway. Pyrokinesis can kill Doughty Voidwalker as a surprise. Is that better than something else we've got going on here? Maybe? But what? The War Marshals? These feel pretty medium to me. Alright, let's try this. This hand is too slow to matter, I think. Okay, we have a Wasteland. We have an Aether Vial. Have a little bit of fast mana. We can keep this. We'll probably get rid of this land. We can lead out on this on Goblin. Play our Aether Vial. Start taking that up. Next turn we can just start throwing Broadside Bombardier and chipping away our opponent's life total. We will need another red source at some point to put our Muxus into play. But I believe. Right. Our opponent's got a lot of 0 drops that I wasn't necessarily expecting from them. But they didn't start with a Leyline as well, so that gives us a lot more time to play. Because I have to put multiple things into play here. Alright. We are just on Broadside Bombardiers, I believe. Don't have any lands to Wasteland. Let's have a little bash for 2. There's our opponent's Ancient Tomb. An Ensnaring Bridge. Alright. So we have ways of beating Ensnaring Bridge. Presently our opponent doesn't have enough cards in hand to stop our Bombardiers from attacking. Cavern of Souls. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're kind of getting closer. If we Wasteland our opponent off of an Ancient Tomb, they might struggle to get all their cards out. I think we are attacking here. I think do I want to save the Wasteland for Urza Saga when they have their own Ensnaring Bridge? I don't think so. I think we just want to strand some cards in our opponent's hand here and try and draw a Sticker Goblin. Black and white. Orcish Bowmasters or Shoulder's Edict. Alright. Let's put in this guy. We'll sacrifice our bad guy and keep our good guy. There is the Urza Saga. Let's put a counter on our Vial. Ancient Tomb. Alright, we can attack here. I don't think we're going to throw an Aether Vial here. I don't think it's worth. We can tutor for Trashmaster if we find a Matron off of our Muxus next turn as well. Play this, play around. Opposition agent. Red. Some more mana. Go Gadget Muxus. Pin them for 2. Yes. Let's get the Goblin Trashmaster. Alright, they've just had enough. Alright. Oh, the Trashmaster's already on the battlefield, hidden by this library. Alright, yeah. Cool. Would have spent ages looking for it then, to be honest, and kicked myself for sideboarding out and then realised that's not a thing. I'm more inclined by this Magus now. I'm seeing some of these other bits, but is that really where I want to go? Maybe the Ringleader's a bit slow here. Right, let's try this. Trashmaster good. We will need some more lands, but Aether Vial can tick up and do some stuff for us. This is a 1-lander with an Aether Vial. But we're on the draw. You got to believe in the deck sometimes. Maybe this is a mistake, but it's got cards that we definitely want to see in this matchup. Alright, I would like to draw a Wasteland now, I guess. Not draw a Wasteland. So now we're in that horrible situation again where Pithing Needle can just shut down Aether Vial. This is why I dislike Aether Vial in Legacy right now. I just think it's very slow compared to what everyone else is doing. And also, it's so easy to shut down from so many decks. Alright, so we can Munitions Expert and kill their construct if they make one next turn. They didn't have any like Dark Ritual type stuff to power one out. They are showing us that they need help with mana though. That's what this says to me. Khan the Great Creator. This is going to shut off our Aether Vial. We will be putting the Munitions Expert into play to hit this. We can find a land. We can put a Broadside Bombardiers in and just kill this guy. We did not find the land here. So I can deal this 1 damage. And then I can do 2 more damage to it. That's not really enough to get us anywhere. If we'd have found a land that turn, that would have been great. We could have Broadside Bombardiers, we could have killed this, and then we could activate our Aether Vial and do all this good stuff. Trinisphere. Yikes. Not a massive fan of that one. They are activating the Trinisphere. What are we supposed to do about that Trinisphere? I think we are still playing this Munitions Expert. If we draw a land, we can still play our guy. Red. Black. Oh wait, no. We should have cast this in response to the Trinisphere. That's such an error. Whoops. Getting confused by my Aether Vial a little bit there. This is what, the 4th game now where we've struggled to draw mana sources? I think the mana base in this deck might not be ideal. Obviously small sample size, so we could be wrong on that one. And we did keep a 1-lander. So that is definitely on us. So maybe I shouldn't be blaming the deck when we are the ones who kept the 1-lander. What have you got, opponents? They're pretty close to Mycosynth Lattice Lock. Liquid Metal Coating. Alright. That's going to be a real miserable time for us from next turn onwards, that's for sure. Can we draw the land? I don't know if we want to put this on 4 yet. I think we want to keep this on 3. If we can clear this Khan, we can deploy a bunch of stuff. Yeah, that's going to shut this off. So we can find an Ancient Tomb here. We found a mountain. That doesn't allow us to do anything. That's not true, actually. That allows us to kill the Khan. Because we now have 3 lands. Black. Red. Alright, maybe we've wriggled our way into something good here. Kill this. Sholdred's Edict. That's a pain. But we can kill the Khan on this current board state. We'll leave this on 3, I think. Can we please kill your Khan? Wait, no, we can't kill the Khan. It's gone up to 2, hasn't it? Oh my god. Oh, my poor little brain. This is pretty grim. Yep. Another Trinisphere, that doesn't really matter to us here. Okay, I think we leave this on here. Looking for... dear, oh dear. We have to keep attacking Khan here. What are these wants to go? I think it's probably the Magus here. It's not really doing us any favours. So we're going to lose our final land now. So how do we come back from this? That is a fine question. How do we come back from this? We can't play any more lands. I think... did I board in... We can't cast Furies actually because of the Trinisphere. We are just dead here, aren't we? Yuck. Our mana base is betraying us a little bit. Now, we did keep a 1-lander. So that is on us a little bit. But we should be drawing lands a little bit more frequently. But again, this feels like a matchup where if we were playing Turbo Muxus, where we can just unload quickly instead of having this little build-up period, we'd just be in a lot better spot than where we are now. Feels like we're working hard. We're working harder than we need to, necessarily. And I do not think Aether Vial is a very good card in Legacy at the moment. I'm willing to be proven wrong, though, but that's just my thoughts on the matter. We are 1 and 2, sadly. Let's go to round 4. This hand feels pretty slow. I don't think we can keep this. Okay, this hand seems better. We can keep this. I don't really want to throw away any of my lands, given how things have been going lately. Then we throw back the Prospector and use the Lackey as our turn 1 play. I played against this opponent recently, but I can't remember what they were playing. Flooded Strand, okay. Right, let's get Lackey going. This can put in a Ringleader next turn and get us going nicely along our way. But they're probably just going to plow it into turn or bolt it. Is it bolt? It's a bolt. Alright. So now our hand is very slow. There's Wasteland. Yep. No 1-drop though, so our opponent isn't really capitalising on that. I'm really reluctant to play this out and fetch because a lot of people have been running Stifle lately. So I'm going to play out this Rishadan Port to dodge the Stifle. This does play into days, but we need to get something going. If we wait to play the Aether Vial, then we're not doing anything, because Aether Vial is basically a useless card for 3 turns in our deck a lot of the time. So you kind of need this to gear up. Right, so we can't pay for this, but our opponents set back a land. They didn't do anything with 1 mana last turn, so hopefully they won't do anything with 1 mana this turn. There's the Volk again. No ponders, no threats. Curious what's in their hand. Name Sticker Goblin. That's not bad. I am very reluctant to fetch into Stifle here, which is annoying. Let's crack it now and see if this makes a difference. Because clearly they have a play here. Like, they're always just going to fetch and do stuff anyway. But if we can tap them down and then cast the Sticker Goblin, because if you remove the Sticker Goblin in response, yes, this is the Grixis, this is the build that has the 2 Stifles in. But if you cast Name Sticker Goblin and they remove it, it doesn't get the trigger. Alright. So, we did not find the mana source. We are having a real bad time with our mana in this deck. Our deck feels like we need some Muxus or something in here. We want to tap them down at the end of turn to make it more likely our Sticker Goblin lives. Maybe we should have just fetched into the Stifle first and tried to port them down the turn they played the Murktide. An Arid Mesa. Let's get a red source. Let's put a creature on the stack. We don't really have time to not be playing spells. You're going to kill this in response? No. 6 mana. That's quite a lot of mana. So this is a 5/5. So we could kill this turn with our Bombardiers. That's Matron as well. We just get another Sticker Goblin, I think, is the correct play here. Our hand needs more mana. If they let us go to attacks, that's pretty good. Some damages in. They could Stifle this trigger. Sorry, not trigger, this activate ability. Alright, let's see what they're fetching for here. This is Bowmasters or something. Or Lightning Bolt. Bowmasters. They're going to go for double block because this has Menace, so they have to trade both of their guys for it. That 1 ping should have gone out of face if that's what they're doing. It has Menace because why not? Do you want to trade your Bowmasters? Like, Bowmasters isn't great against us anyway, so I would probably just trade them off. But that's what you're worried about, because this, every time this attacks, is real bad news for our opponent. So we can try and stick a Goblin into Ringleader next turn. And do a little reload. We got the Scary Murktide off the board. We can start lava axing our opponent's face pretty hard. Munitions Expert isn't quite one we get to do anything with right now. Right, name Sticker Goblin. Days. We don't get to pay for that, sadly. Right, let's attack with our guys. They didn't block last turn, so let's see if they want to double block this turn. They do. This is interesting. This feels like they could be baiting us in with a lightning bolt here. If they lightning bolt our broad, so if we sacrifice his name Sticker Goblin to kill this, and then they lightning bolt our broadside bombardiers, then we're not in a great spot. But I think it's too good of an opportunity. I think we take the Bowmasters out here. Just go board control. They have a lightning bolt here. We do get blown out. Like, it's not like a huge blowout. They get left with a 1/1, and we're left with nothing. But the upside is we're left with Bombardiers and they're left with nothing. So I think that's worth it. We can take out our ports here. And a Murktide. How big is this? A small Murktide. Right. Find a land. We did not find a land. Do get to attack here though, because this has menace. So if we find a land, we can play Munitions Expert and then throw it at... It has menace. If we play Munitions Expert, we can throw it at the Murktide. Our opponent is winning this race. Aether Vial. Throw this for 3 damage. I don't think that's worth throwing for 3 damage just yet. So if we can get this up to 2, we can play our Munitions Expert. There is a Bauble. So a Bowmaster or a Lightning Bolt makes us a 2-turn clock. So our opponent is definitely on the right track. Also Bolt, Mystic Sanctuary, Bolt as well. So we could be dead very soon. Ancient Tomb. That is not a free spell to cast. A free land to cast spells from. I think we have to do it here. Oh, we're dead to Lightning Bolt anyway. We need this to resolve. Oh, a Brainstorm. Okay. I was ready to concede there, but Brainstorming 4 an answer. Bolt our face. That'll do. Alright. So, what feels good in this sort of matchup? Magus, the Pyroblasts feel pretty good here. I'm not really into these like Furies and Pyrokinesis that much though. They can sweep out some stuff, but it's not actually going to be that good. Munitions Expert is a little conditional. I don't mind bouncing their Murktide, that seems alright to do. Maybe some Munitions Expert. I don't really like having to play black in this deck that much, if I'm being honest. We could board in things like Leyline to slow our opponent down, but we're just supposed to be the aggro. Maybe this is where my knowledge of playing this build instead of Turbo Muxus is sort of faltering. Maybe because we're slightly slow, we're supposed to be playing Leylines, but I think Pyroblast is just better. I don't want to trim too many other things here. Would I rather have Fury than Munitions Expert? Yes, because I don't really want to fetch black lands unless I have to, like if I'm playing my 4-drop. And Fury will always kill the annoying thing. I guess Twinshot Sniper and Pyrokinesis is the same deal. Right, let's have those two. Maybe we're supposed to have the 3rd Pyrokinesis in, but... Skirk Prospector into turn 2 Bombardiers, maybe? Got some removal. Like, it's fine, but not great. I don't think we should keep this. Alright, this seems better. Keep this. We get rid of the Sling-Gang Lieutenant, I believe. Take done. Let's play this. Name Goblin. The worst case scenario here is they counterspell this and then Wasteland us. So let's hope that doesn't happen. There's the Force of Will. Are we getting Wastelanded as well? No. Okay. So we've dodged something. What is more important to me? Having uncounterable. I think it's the Bombardiers being uncounterable is just the better thing here. Nice. Can get eat a Lightning Bolt. Yep, looks like that's what's about to happen. Goodbye. Unholy Heat. Same but different. Sure. Trop into Ponder. Shuffle their library off that Ponder. We could just jam an uncountable Ringleader. That gives us a line to uncountable Muxus next turn a lot more easily. Yep, so here we go. We have uncountable Muxus next turn, provided we don't get wastelanded or whatever. Because we can namestick a Goblin and then play the other Cavern. Make sure we have uncountable for both of them. So we're in a pretty favourable position, I would say, right now. Red and 2. I guess they could line and bolt our namestick a Goblin if they know that trick. We're not playing out the Cavern first, so they don't know that we have the ability to make an uncounterable spell. Alright, looks like they're going to kill the Sticker Goblin in response. Oh no, they're just seeking the beast. Brainstorm and Dragon's Rage Channeler. You're going to Brainstorm. We'll play this on Goblin. We'll cast our uncounterable Goblin. Right, we'll get some little friends. So we could sacrifice 4 guys to get some haste going with this. But that's counterable. So I think we just go in with the Ringleader. Our opponent's not going to have much way of dealing with this board. And the next turn we can just play uncounterable Battle Cry Goblin and then pump all of our stuff and kill them. And that seems like a pretty effective way of trying to win the game. They could have the thing that pings all of our guys for 1, like end the festivities type effect. But we do drain them for 4 if they do that, and then we still get to play Battle Cry Goblin and pump. So Pyroclasm would be pretty good here. Drain them for a bunch, but you don't really see Pyroclasm that much out of Delver decks. There's a Dragon's Race Channeler. That can chump block some damage. Another Channeler. That can chump block some more damage. Might even be able to trade up if they can get Delirium. How much do I value my life total right now? Right, let's Wasteland them off of this source. Right, they're going for a Brainstorm here. So no Brazen Borrower to bounce our Muxus, so this is definitely going to eat up a Channeler. Let's cast this for red. Red. My guy's going to be large. Alright, they've had enough of that one. Fair enough. They kept a very slow hand there, which is interesting. Not expecting that. Do I want Pyrokinesis as well? I don't think so. I think we're okay where we're at here. A couple of sweepers for little guys. And then just try and be the aggro mostly, and then pop one of their Murktide with a Pyroblast or something. This hand seems a bit fair, to be honest. But I think we do keep it. I'm not happy about this Badlands being our only mana source, though. But we're on the draw. We should find some more lands. Although I've said that multiple times this league. And been burned a little bit. There is a Scalding Tarn. Into a Volcanic Island. Into a Channeler. Basic Mountain would be an okay draw. It's not a Basic Mountain. There's a Lackey. We don't have anything super scary to put in with it, but cheating on mana and getting a Ringleader is pretty nice. So if they bolt and Wasteland us now, that's going to be probably lights out for us. Alright. That's not what's happening. If this flips and they don't play another threat, then we do just get to come in with a Lackey. Now, drawing a bunch of cards off Ringleader is all well and good, but if we don't have the mana to deploy them, that's not really going to help us that much. I suppose we have this Sticker Goblin that can maybe ramp some stuff out in second main. We'll see. There's the Wasteland that we didn't want to see. This is a disaster. Yikes. I guess we play... This is an awkward one. So if we play the Ancient Tomb out, we have the chance of playing a 3-drop next turn. So I think we are supposed to play the Ancient Tomb out. Do we want to trade a Lackey for a Channeler when our opponent's down to 4 cards in hand? They've got 4 cards in their graveyard. This would be 5. So they can play a Murktide next turn if we do that. I think we're supposed to pass. If we had another red mana and just deploy another Lackey, then maybe I'd be down for that. But that's not where we're at. Or if we had a Pyroblast on red mana. Alright, so the worst case scenario continues to happen. No, not quite the worst case. They didn't bolt our Lackey yet. Although I shouldn't have said that, because they're going to do it now. No attacks from the Channeler. Alright, another Lackey. Once again, not feeling having all these colourless lands in our deck that don't make lots of mana to help with our quite steep curve. Hydro Blast. That's terrible news. The one thing we had going for us is no longer going for us. And they've also deliriumed their Channeler. We are looking very dead here. In comes the Channeler. Down goes our life total a little. We've got a few turns before this kills us, but if they just play a big Murktide now, that's not going to be amazing for us. They might just play a little Murktide, like a 4-4, and keep this as a 3-3, and then they have 7. Kind of an interesting one. No, they've just gone for the bigger Murktide. Fair enough. Alright, we have a Wasteland. That doesn't do anything. That's exciting. We can tap down their... What? I guess the red source, so they're less likely to deploy another threat, like a DRC. And probably cast a spell in response here. There it is. So what are our outs here? We're going to take 7 this turn, and then we're going to take 7, 8, 9 next turn, which will be exactly lethal. So I guess we could draw a land, play Sticker Goblin, play some more stuff, or we could just draw literal nothing. Yeah, I think the amount of times we're losing to our mana here is possibly not just me not being great with this deck or whatever. I think we are supposed to keep that hand that goes turn 1 Lackey, turn 2 3-drop. And obviously Delver has a lot of tools to disrupt that. But we are running 2 colours for a deck that is almost exclusively mono red. And if this was a mountain instead, I think our chances of winning this game are actually relatively high. So we're definitely feeling the cost of playing black a lot today. Alright, let's go to round 5 to see if we can scrape a 2-3.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbo Depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description. Alright, so on the play, we've got a lot of lands this time. We need to find some action. This Lackey isn't very good though, on its own. Are we supposed to mulligan this one? We have 5 lands, that's probably too many. Alright, I think we mulligan and try and have a hand that does a bit more. See, look at this. We've got like this black-red card. And we've also got these colorless lands and this black thing. Like, I think we do keep this one, but I'm not happy about it. What's wrong with just playing soul lands and turboing Muxuses in people's face? Right, we're playing Arid Mesa so we can't be wastelanded, so we can definitely cast a Munitions Expert next turn. Oh, I recognise our opponent's screen name. I think they're an Ancient Tomb gamer. They like to jam like initiative and sneak and show type strategies. Is it sneak and show? I think it's sneak and show. I don't know. Shouldn't be trying to guess. We don't really have much in the way of options of how we play this game out looking at our hand. Alright, over to us. Alright, so you can play this on Goblin. We can pass. We've got an instant speed ping for 1. Kind of like a bad Bowmasters is kind of what this card feels like sometimes. Obviously Bowmasters being a very good card means a bad Bowmaster is still pretty playable. Alright, I don't think we're going to get much joy off of our Munitions Experts. If I preordain, this is definitely making me think that they are on show and tell. So we're going to be jamming this Munitions Expert end of turn, I believe. And then we can jam the Ringleader and possibly make things a little bit scary for them if they do show and tell. What if we put in a big Muxus and can drain them out with a Sling-Gang or something? Our opponent's not going to mess with our lands in game 1, so we're going to get this Badlands. Red. Black. Play our little Goblin friend. No to its ability. Battle Cry Goblin. Not quite. We need to get something more powerful here. Bombardiers and Matron aren't too shabby. Lotus Petal. I think we're going to see a show and tell this turn. Could be a sneak attack though. There is a show and tell. What is the thing we're putting in here? Probably the thing that makes us the most amount of permanence here. Sneak attack. Okay. It's not really what we wanted to see. Let's hope it's not Emrakul. It's Emrakul. So we lose 6 permanents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we do get to keep playing the game. But we're on 2 life and our Ancient Tomb is off. So we lose our Ancient Tomb. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we lose these. Then we go to 2. And we hope our opponent can't find another one before we can do some Goblin stuff. Right, here comes a little Goblin friend. I don't have another guy. Alright. Muxus, you say? Interesting. Right, we'll attack. We'll play out a Prospector. So we have 4 mana, so if you draw, I guess an H2 doesn't do it. 3, 4, 5. No, that's still not going to do it. Right, what have they got here? Any creature's good enough here. Yeah, that'll do. Alright. Again, I'm feeling that if we were Turbo Muxus, we would have a better time here. A couple of Pyroblasts is about all we're getting out of this. Like, Twinshot Sniper seems pretty bad. The Munitions Experts also seem bad. We could try and run something like a Chalice, but Chalice on 1 isn't great here. Is Fury something I'm interested in? I don't think it is. So I need to put 2 of these bad cards back in. I guess the one that's easier to cast. I like Stingscourger here though. That's not nothing. Trashmaster pumps guys. I think that's going to be better than Munitions Expert. That's not really going to be killing anything. Magus can do some stuff here, but they're a deck that can run their own Blood Moon, so I don't think that's where I want to be. Sure. I do not feel particularly happy with this matchup. This hand is going to be too slow to ever beat a show and tell deck. Although if they show and tell and we put in Muxus, that's good. But if they don't... maybe we do keep this and we lead out on Vial and then we just port them a few turns. And if they try and show and tell, we do get to mess with them a bunch. Having Muxus in hand is okay. Like if they turn 1 show and tell, we probably are odds on to win the game. Unless they put in an Omniscience, of course.
then it might prove somewhat difficult. Right, they didn't do anything with their first turn. That's interesting. That means they probably have Brainstorm rather than Ponder in their hand. Or they want to play around. I don't think they care about the Rishadan Port here. Not immediately, at least. We could force a shuffle now so that their Brainstorm will lock them. If we've put them on having Brainstorm here. But if they've just got another fetch, then that's going to be kind of irrelevant. I think what we do is if they try and Brainstorm here, we then tap the other land in response. I think we hold this up if we put them on the Brainstorm read. Alright, they're fetching a land, getting some sort of blue source. Oh no, red source, I think. Ooh, interesting. A Lotus Petal, sure. Another Lotus Petal. This could be Show and Tell, Sneak Attack, and that would be bad news for us. Well, not necessarily. Okay, this could just be Sneak Attack activate, and then we lose. Sure. How bad is it going to be? We didn't really get an opportunity to do much with the Rishadan Port here. As an Emrakul, we're going to lose all of our permanents. Not that they're doing us much good. Yikes. I won't sacrifice 6 permanents. You can only have 3. What rubbish value your Emrakul got? Alright. At least we have a bunch of lands in hand, so there is that. But where do these lands take us? We need our opponent to not have a guy here. Like, it's unfortunate that they had turn 2 Sneak Attack activate when we had a Muxus in hand for Show and Tell lines. Alright, so they're going to shuffle away what they've just put on top with the Brainstorm, because if they'd have found the thing that wins them the game, they would have just cast it. Alright, they've got a thing. What thing is it? Yeah, we just absolutely crushed there, which is kind of how I felt all league. Like, we're just playing a different level of game. Let's have a look at our matches here. So aside from the Show and Tell deck, we obviously won 1 round 2-0, and we did split the game, so we weren't just getting completely beasted in these games. They were like 1-2s, so, you know, we were winning games, but not enough. All right, let's talk about the deck. So you can probably imagine my first port of call is going to be, do we really need to be playing black in this deck with these cards? It makes our mana base substantially worse. Like, we're having 3 more lands to get Wastelands out from underneath us, and we're a deck that basically needs to cast 3 drops to win the game. And I don't think this helps us do that. Also, if we're running all these colorless lands alongside things like Munitions Expert, that's going to be tripping on your toes a little bit, as we discovered in a couple of rounds. I'll also say that 24 lands with 4 Wastelands, that's not a lot of lands if we're trying to cast 3 drops. Only 2 of them tap for 2 as well. Now, the games we have a Vial, and it ticks up, is pretty good, but Vial is just not very good in Legacy, in my opinion, right now. What I will say, though, is Geodude Jared has, you know, just the last 3 events they played in was a 5-0 league, a 4-0 prelim, and then winning a challenge. So clearly this deck has a lot of good stuff going for it. And Geodude Jared is going to be a far better player at this deck than I ever will be, right? This is like their deck, and they've been jamming it, and they're great with it. So they're obviously going to get more percentage points here because they've put in the hard work to, you know all the lines, know all the right keepable hands, and sort of know how games will pan out a little bit more. But there's that old adage of work smarter, not harder, right? And I think the Turbo Muxus version is a good example of that, right? Because what the Turbo Muxus deck does is it puts game-ending stuff into play earlier than what we're doing here. Now, the best things we can do in this deck are, like, turn 2, stick a Goblin into Muxus. That's basically the best thing our deck can do. Whereas the Turbo Muxus deck can do that turn 1. And they're way more reliable at doing it because they don't just have 2 Muxus and 3 Sticker Goblin. They've got more of the really broken cards. Because these are, you know, the busted things that win you the game. Broadside Bombardiers pretty close to being one of the busted things that win you the game too, in all honesty. But things like Mogg War Marshal, this is, you know, we're playing this because we kind of have to go up the curve, right? A little bit, because we can't just go straight up to 3 drops because we're not playing a mana base that supports that. So we're kind of having to play this as like a stopgap measure. And, you know, it has some synergy with things like Sling-Gang Lieutenant, that's for sure. Pumping the tokens and stuff with Battle Cry Goblin isn't the worst either. This is a body you can fling with Broadside Bombardiers. You know, it's just not like it's completely without synergy. But this card on its own does not feel very strong. And it's quite a slow grind to get these things working, in my opinion. And our mana base is much more susceptible. It's not like we can go, okay, turn 1, we're going to play something game-ending. You have to deal with this. You can't be messing with our mana, otherwise you're just going to lose to Rabble Master. or whatever, right? So that's kind of what the Turbo Muxus deck does. And it runs loads of lands at tap for 2. So it's reliably making 3 drops on turn 1 or 2. And we just don't do that here. So we kind of have to play this Lackey into other stuff. But Lackey is pretty weak in the format right now because there's obviously decks playing 1-mana creatures, whether it's Elvish Reclaimer, which is a 1-2, which is pretty good against the Goblin Lackey, or a selection of mana dorks that can just chump it for a turn or whatever. And then you've also got Orcish Bowmasters. If you're on the draw, Goblin Lackey is getting pinged down by Orcish Bowmasters all the time. So it's not a very reliable way of putting your creatures into play. Aether Vial, this isn't putting anything good into play until turn 3 generally. Until turn 4, sorry. Like, Battle Cry Goblin is pretty good, but it's not very good on its own. It needs friends, otherwise it's just Grizzly Bear. So our Aether Vial here isn't doing anything until turn 4. And in Legacy at the moment, that's very slow. Now, yes, we have Wastelands, but we've only got 2 ports to go alongside them. That's a lot of resources dedicated. So you know, it's a decent chunk of resources dedicated to slowing your opponent down, but not necessarily a reliable amount of resources, right? We don't have like 4 ports like we used to do in Goblin decks once upon a time. Those have kind of gone by the wayside. So we don't have that option to lock people down as much because we're trying to run these Ancient Tunes because we've identified that we need to be playing these busted cards because the format isn't the slowest right now. There's definitely decks you can play which slow the format down nicely, and there's ways that you can do that. But we don't really have enough tools to do that, in my opinion, to just sit behind an Aether Vial, especially when loads of people are packing main deck answers to Aether Vial. You know, like we saw, the Urza Saga just goes fetch a Pithing Needle. People jam a Khan, turns it off. There's Prismatic Endings. There's Leyline Bindings. People running main deck Collector Roofs as well, which they can go find with Green Sun Zenith or Outland Liberator to blow it up. You know, there's quite a bunch of things that make Aether Vial bad in the format, in my opinion. And every time I played a deck with it, it rarely feels like I ever get to do anything with it. Or by the time I get to start putting things in, it's a little bit too late, or I'm incredibly dependent on it. And this is my point of fragility in a matchup. Like we had a few times today, where if our Aether Vial was able to activate, then we'd be fine. But that is basically, our whole hand ends up funneled into this one point. And if our opponent can disrupt that, like the Khan did, then we don't go anywhere. And that's kind of one of the risks, I think, of playing Aether Vial at the moment. Like obviously, there's a bunch of powerful stuff in here, but I'm just trying to work out where this deck is better than Turbo Muxus. Like in the combo matchups, Turbo Muxus can race a lot of combo decks. You know, it can turn 1 people. It can relatively efficiently turn 2 as well. And it almost always kills its opponent by turn 3, or, you know, is doing something much more powerful than this deck is tending to do in that sort of time frame. So this definitely feels worse against the combo decks. Against aggro decks, our Goblin Lackeys are probably not getting through at any point, so that doesn't feel amazing. Our Aether Vials are too slow to keep up with anything like Initiative, and I don't think, like, I think Delver maybe is one of the ones where it's okay because we've got a little bit more interaction and stuff and we can mess with their things. I think maybe this might be slightly better against Delver, but even then I'm not entirely convinced by that. I'm just not sure where this deck is better. Now, if you're a Goblins expert like Geodude Jared, I think you could probably play this build, you could play Turbo Muxus, you could play, you know, mono red version of this or whatever, and you're probably still going to be doing pretty well, because what Legacy does do is if you play a deck and get enough experience with it, you end up with a significant amount of percentage points on playing that deck compared to somebody else picking up that deck and playing it. Because the format's very complex, it's very rich and deep, and there's lots of different interactions, and there's so many ways you need to learn about how hands will play out and things like that, and learning the numbers of your deck and things like, and just, you know, there's so many facets that you can get slight marginal percentages on. And, you know, this might be one of those things. It might be one of those playstyle things where the pilot who's built this deck has, you know, they want all these tools. It's a bit of a holdover from when they used to play Goblins before, so they've got all the reps in, so they've got these extra play points on this, whereas the Turbo Muxus runs a little bit more like Mono Red Stompy than, or a lot more like Mono Red Stompy than classic Goblins. However, again, we go back to what I said at the beginning of this deck tech was, or this debrief even, work smarter, not harder. I think this deck is asking us to jump through a bunch of hoops that isn't necessarily always going to work out for us, right? We've got the mana base that is slower. We've got more points of failure, I think, than the other deck has. We do get some more interaction tools, though. That is definitely a real thing that you get here by playing the black. You get things that you can drain over the top, so it's another way of winning. You have the Munitions Expert with a little bit of interaction, although how often this is actually killing stuff, I'm not... Like, it can take out a Bowmasters quite often, but we don't really care about Bowmasters. It can certainly take some stuff out when we Muxus, but if we're Muxusing, we're probably winning anyway. So it just feels like we should just be playing more of the most powerful cards. Like, these are the two most powerful goblins ever printed, in my opinion. Muxus Goblin Grandee and Namesticker Goblin. These are, like, absolute busted creatures that win games and do stuff. And then what you're looking at after that, probably Bombardiers might be the next best goblin ever printed. And then it's, like, Battle Cry Goblin. And, like, Lackey's quite a way down these days. I think Lackey is lacking in use now compared to previously. Especially when, you know, lots of decks are built to deal with things like Orcish Bowmasters and stuff now. So pretty much every deck is going to have a way of answering Lackey, whether that's putting a creature in front of it, whether it's like a Patchwork Automaton or an Elvish Reclaimer or even a Delver to trade with it for a turn, that sort of thing. Or, you know, the control decks, they'll be ploughing it, they could end it with Prismatic Ending. That, you know, there's plenty of ways people are going to be dealing with it. And I just don't think it's where I personally would like to be right now, when we could just be doing like Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, smash out a Namesticker Goblin turn 1, play a Mux turn 1, win the game. I also felt like our sideboard. Now, obviously, we have these tools to help with some of the combo matchups, and we played against matchups where it didn't really help. So we, you know, Sneak and Show, we have 2 Pyroblasts. I don't know how we're ever really beating Sneak and Show with this deck, unless they fail, because we are a little bit slow. I guess if we have an Ancient Tomb hand, maybe we can try and put a turn 2 Muxus off of a Sticker Goblin if we get lucky. But that's going to require a little bit more hoops to jump through, whereas Terra Muxus has just more of these effects, and it gets to run things like Defense Grid if it wants to, and that just feels a little bit better. Also, because we're running Aether Vial, we don't get to run things like Meltdown, which we maybe want to run sometimes in some matchups. I think against those decks, we probably just go through them a lot of the time anyway, so that's not really necessary. And I guess you don't really run Meltdown on the other one because of the Chrome Moxes anyway. But usually if you're doing that, it's going to be worse for them than it's for you. It feels like this deck has more points of failure that I dislike compared to just having a mono red mana base, a bunch of lands attacked for 2, a bunch of Chrome Moxes so you can power out the most broken, powerful stuff as early as possible. You know, you're playing either Sticker Goblin, Broadside Bombardiers, or Goblin Rabblemaster on turn 1 quite often with the Turbo Muxus deck. And, you know, Broadside Bombardiers and the... Broadside Bombardiers is an excellent piece of board control that you can just sort of ride to victory. But then Goblin Rabblemaster, if you don't answer it, it kills you in about 3 turns. Namesticker Goblin quite often just wins you the game that turn. So I think I've made my position clear on this deck. Now, we obviously did worse than I think this deck deserves. I think this deck is a good deck, but I think I would argue that this deck's success comes partially down to the quality of the pilot. I think the fact that it was being piloted by like someone who is very adept with goblins and has tweaked it and has a lot more experience with the deck means that they're getting more percentage out of it than maybe it not necessarily deserves, but is the level where it's on average going to be. I think you have to play much better with this deck to win games than you do with Turbo Muxus. And work smarter, not harder, right? Why make your life more difficult for yourself? That's my opinion on this one anyway. But a massive congratulations to Geodude Jared for winning like 3 events on the trot with this. You know, League, Prelim, and Challenge. Especially a Challenge, that's a lot of stiff competition you have to get through. And they're obviously going to have a much better opinion on this deck than me. But my opinion at going into this, having played a few Turbo Muxus leagues and sort of seeing where the format is at right now and what works and what doesn't, I'm not convinced this is where I would recommend people to go with Goblins. But if you like Goblins, by all means you can play Goblins. Turbo Muxus is, in my opinion, the best aggro deck in the format. I think it's incredibly strong. It put 2 into the top 16 of North American Eternal Weekend. It had a pretty good win rate there as well. And I think it just has slightly fewer points of failure here compared to this one. All right, that was quite a detailed debrief now, and I'm going to bid you lovely people goodbye. So thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel. And if you're finding yourself with some spare time this Christmas, by all means, go through and watch plenty of videos. I have loads on here, so it does help just watching stuff and boosting me in algorithms. And, you know, I really love Legacy, and the more people that watch it and get into it, the better. All right, goodbye.